What's up, guys? Welcome to the first official episode of the podcast here on the channel. So one of the first things that we wanted to talk about on this episode, which I think is a good transition from being a crypto and stock market channel, is to talk about how my opinion on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has changed over the last couple of months specifically. So I got my boy here, my legit brother Conrad. We're ready to give you guys some fire conversation, some good vibes. So let's get into it, bro. What do you say?
Okay, so I feel like we should start talking about Bitcoin and how we're becoming more and more on board with that.
Yeah, you know, it's like I've been in the crypto realm for quite some time. Anyone that knows me knows that I pretty much eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. But as time goes on, my opinion is beginning to change. Now, before you click off this video, I do want to be clear. I got a lot of love for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency still. In fact, the major part of my investments is in Bitcoin and crypto because it's something that I believe is very just futuristic. But what's crazy is the whole crypto landscape has really just changed over time, you know? For example, when I first started making crypto videos on YouTube, I thought that every single altcoin was going to be that next big thing. But as time goes on and we've seen so many of these projects just hit the rubble and pretty much crumble, I've realized that the only true decentralized and scarce asset out there that people genuinely desire is Bitcoin, you know?
You know, I feel like a lot of people are very naive and they're trying to make $1 million overnight. And let's be real, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Agreed.
So you cannot just buy into like some, I don't know, like Pepe coin, like or any bullshit coin, and you're gonna have $1 million next day you wake up. Like it doesn't work like that. There are scams in crypto, there are scams in NFT, there are scams in dollars, like there are scams everywhere.
Yeah.
They're looking for people that are naive, that don't know the subject. So if you don't have like a real in-depth knowledge about specific stuff, I wouldn't dive into like all these like smaller coins because a lot of times there have been rug pulls on everything.
Facts.
But like there are scams, as I said, everywhere. So people gonna call you, they're gonna try to scam you, get a gift card, get like your social security. There's a lot of different types of scams. So you cannot just cross off crypto or like Bitcoin just because there were some scams associated to like smaller coins. Again, there are scams everywhere. So as saying that, I feel like Bitcoin is a very scarce asset. And in this world, the best hedge against inflation is something that's very scarce. Yes, they can print a lot of dollars. Yes, they can print a lot of like pounds or like Swiss francs or other stuff. Like there's only so much Bitcoin, okay? So Bitcoin is scarce and Bitcoin will only raise in value over time.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. I think that you said that perfectly. You know, I think that you also, like this is very simple, yet people are stupid and they just still don't do it. I feel like you have to really do your research and due diligence. Like, I've even had friends that have literally come to me and been like, yo, listen, I found this website that pretty much says, listen, you send one Ethereum to this address and they're going to send you back two. And I'm like, yo, like, did you lose your mind? Like, what makes you think that if you send someone one Ethereum, which is worth next to $2,000, that they're going to send you a free $2,000? And if you're stupid enough to do that, I don't want to be that guy, but you low-key deserve it. You know, like, it's just basic stuff. And going back to what you said about people wanting to be those overnight millionaires, this is something that I've said in the past, and I think that this is straight on the money. Like, if you are looking for that overnight success and you think that you're going to find that, whether it be on these different meme coins, Doge, Elon Musk, Mars coin, it's simply not going to happen for you. Like, at that point, I say, go down to Atlantic City or whatever your local casino is, put your money on red, and at that point, you have a better chance at success because more often than not, the companies behind these projects are just BS, or it's a rug pull that the initial investors are going to make out like bandits on, and you're going to be left holding the bag, you know?
Honestly, like some of these projects are just intent to scam you. They have their coins, they wait for people to buy in, they sell right on them, that's it, the project is done.
But I did just want to say in the same breath, dude, like, I find it crazy the people that actually did wind up making these stupid gains off these like meme coins. Like, dude, coins like Pepe, Shiba Inu, even like Dogecoin. Dogecoin is kind of an anomaly because Elon Musk, when he hopped on board there, that just sent that coin like to the moon, as they say.
You know, that's true, but you have to remember that there is going to be a few people that are going to win, but there is going to be like 90% or more that's going to lose.
Yep.
And it's kind of like with everything, okay? I feel like we should maybe dive into the discussion. What's the best way to store the value, like to not lose money when we have inflation going everywhere? You have inflation in the US, in Turkey, like you had this back in Greece. Like inflation is everywhere. Like, what do you think is like the best way to like have the same value of your money, or like store your values, your net worth?
Dude, great question. I mean, this is a known fact, but any asset, again, that is scarce. Like, people refer to God as gold. They refer to gold as God's money, and I think that is straight on the money, because if you look at how long gold has been around and how it's been used as a store of value for more than 5,000 years, it's just something that's not going to go anywhere. And as dollars, Russian rubles, Turkish lira, you name it, continue to just be printed out of these money printers, like, you leaving your money in the bank, you're going to lose big time. And like, I just wanted to make a reference to, I was recently watching the best ever food review show. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Sonny. That guy has one of my favorite food content channels on YouTube, but he just recently went out to Lebanon, right?
Yeah.
The inflation that they're seeing is disgusting. Like, one bread in the store is literally less than 1 penny. So just think about that. And you know, people think when they hear that, like, oh, like, now I can go there and live like a multi-millionaire, which to a certain degree is true. Foreign products are always going to be expensive, but I look at it like this. Yo, the people living there, dude, they're struggling hard. They're struggling hard. Like, think about this. They're getting their salary in whatever BS currency is associated with their country, you know?
And so I just want to bring up Argentina in here, okay? If I'm correct, 2015, 2017, $1, you had to pay about 8 Argentine pesos for that. Guess how much is it now?
It's through the roof. I don't even. What's the number?
350 Argentine pesos for $1, when it used to be like 5 to 10 8 years back. So look at this inflation. Inflation is insane, and it's getting worse from day to day to day.
That's legitimately scary. And you know, think about the people that left money in their bank accounts in Argentine pesos. I'm pretty sure they got pesos out there. But what I wanted to say is, I think that countries like Argentina, Lebanon, even Turkey, they should be looking at countries like El Salvador that have really adopted Bitcoin and hopped on that wagon, because they've been, from what I understand, accumulating a ton of cryptocurrency over the last few years, specifically Bitcoin. And the president, he openly says, like, oh, we just scooped up more Bitcoin on the low end. When you see large organizations like BlackRock getting into crypto, BlackRock obviously worth trillions of dollars. When you see them getting into the crypto space, I think that that's an obvious indicator that crypto is something that's not going away anytime soon. And one of the things that I speak about quite often is that, think about this, right? Gold is more than 5,000 years old, right?
Yeah.
The total market capitalization of gold is believed to be around $12 trillion. Think about this. Crypto's peak market cap, when Bitcoin went all the way up to like 65K, it was literally over $3 trillion. Bitcoin literally was created in 2008, and it was used as a means of currency in 2009. So something that's not even 15, 20 years old has already amassed a quarter of the market capitalization of gold in such a short amount of time. Like, just think about where crypto is going to be when the awareness just continues to grow. Because now, like, large banks and organizations are saying, like, yo, like, we have to be a part of this or we're going to be left behind. Like, I'm not kidding. Listen, if you heard it here first, if you're in your 20s, don't be surprised when you have a kid and they're like this. Hey, Dad, could I get $100 to go get a coffee? Like, the inflation that we're already experiencing is insane, and it's just something that's just going to continue to get worse and worse over time.
Just, man, even now, like, you go to Starbucks, you're trying to get a large coffee, whatever, you're going to pay $8, $9, $10 for a coffee.
Dude, like, it's crazy.
It used to be, I don't know, 10 years ago it used to be what, like $2, $3, like, it's ridiculous, it's insane. And the one of the concepts that I just heard of it like a couple months back was in Argentina. They have like pegged exchange rate. So, and there's also like a block market for exchanging money.
Right.
So let's say if you go to like a regular regulated exchange, that's just an example number. Let's say if you're trying to get 200 Argentine pesos, you're gonna, let's say, put like $1, and they're gonna give you twice as much in like a black market for that.
Oh yeah.
And what's insane is that, let's say if you're trying to give them 100, like one bill of $100, like a blue $100 bill, is gonna be worth more than two $50 bills.
That's crazy.
That's an insane concept. I never heard of that. When I heard that, I was like, wow, that's insane. So it's literally better to go to like a black market, as they call it, for exchanging money, because you can get double as much as you go to like a regular exchange. So like the situation there is just like, it's insane.
Yo, you know what, dude? Dab me up. You just put me on a great thought. I will never forget when I went to Uzbekistan, and as Conrad mentioned, this is something that exists in many of those like developing third world countries. It's like you go there, and if you exchange your money with like a bank or you take money from an ATM, you're getting robbed. Like I remember when I pulled up to the border, if you exchange like $100, dude, you get a stack. Like it's literally a stack of money. And the first time that I went to Uzbekistan, I remember this guy helped me exchange money on the black market, and as you said, you get like double to triple them. It was something insane, but from what I understand now, at least in Uzbekistan, that's kind of going away. Not entirely, but the banks are kind of bringing it to something more like equal, if that makes any sense.
So actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think the same thing is happening in Argentina. Like seeing all this like black market, like a money exchange thrive in Argentina, they came up with like a tourist exchange rate. So it's much closer to the black market rate. Still not as good as it's the black market, but it's closer.
Yeah, it's closer.
So they're trying to fix it, but again, like the inflation, it's not stopping. It's not stopping. And speaking of that, you remember when we were talking about our experiences in Turkey, and I told you like, oh, I went to Turkey 5 years ago, and it's like everything was so cheap, and you just went to Turkey and told me like, dude, it was expensive.
Yeah, it was expensive. Like I mean, it wasn't expensive in relation to like Europe, for example. I mean, it's slowly but surely getting there. But like, I went out with my lady. If you go to any tourist spot, they want $15 for a drink, like a cocktail. And I'm like, yo, like, I pay this back home in New York City. Like, this is ridiculous. This is straight robbery. But in the same breath, that's usually those big cities. Because when I was in the South, if you go to like those small towns that are like a little bit out, that's where you're going to find those solid deals. Because otherwise, like if you're in Istanbul, it's honestly getting on par with like Czech Republic and many of these other countries. Like taxis from the airport to the city center, you're not spending less than $50 per ride. And when I pay $50 per ride, I think in my head like, this is Turkey. Like I've literally taken a 10-hour taxi in Uzbekistan for like a few dollars. Now it doesn't go to say that they're on the same level, but you can already see how things are getting more and more and more and more expensive. And there's money in Istanbul and a lot of development. That's a really big up and coming city.
Yeah, so I feel like literally in like a big towns like this, like Istanbul you said, or like Ankara, like the prices are huge. Like the increase in price is insane. And it's one of the reasons is inflation. So since like their currency is worth less comparing to, let's say, US dollar, then their imports cost more. If their imports cost more, then their prices go higher. So let's say, as you said, like the food that you were trying to buy, it was not very expensive, but if you wanted some drinks, which they had to export, import from other countries, then it means, it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
So from what I remember, like when I was to go get a drink, it was like, like $5, maybe $6 I had to pay for a drink. Now you say it's 15. So like it's going much higher. And what I feel like is going even higher than this are all these like extra tourist attractions that you want to have. Let's say you want to have a balloon ride in Cappadocia. It's going to be $150 or $200 per person.
Yeah.
Comparing to like, it was like half of it like a few years back.
It's so true.
So like literally all these countries, let's say even like Thailand now. Thailand used to be so cheap. It's not that cheap anymore. Now when they see a tourist, they see like you're like a walking ATM.
They see dollar signs.
They see dollar signs. You're a walking ATM. Like you spending so much money anywhere you want to go.
It's so true. Dude.
So now I feel like now people are trying to dig even deeper, and like if you want to go for a cheaper vacation, you have to go to like Vietnam, or like you have to go to like, I don't know, like even San Salvador. Like people that no one wanted to ever go to back of the day, now they're becoming a little bit more popular just because it's still relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Comparing to like Thailand, Turkey, like stuff like that.
Dude, you brought up a great point. Like when I think about that, dude, like people literally now are going to, like you said, these other countries like Vietnam, for example, or like even like there's a small tourist scene growing in like Cambodia, like places you never thought. But yo, you know what that brings to my mind? Globalization and the rise of technology has just like the growth for technology is literally like going straight up. So by that I mean like with the rise of the internet and things like that, everywhere on earth at this point has some sort of tourism scene. Like I've been in so many third world countries that people have never even heard about, and it's like somehow there's tourists there. Somehow they're making money off of whatever attraction happens to be in that area, similar to what you said about Cappadocia. Yeah. So like I feel like as time goes on, the world is just going to continue to get more and more expensive as people are traveling more, or as more countries are opening up and people are learning about what are in these different places, you know?
Or even like, just to bring up real quick Georgia, okay? Because of the war between Russia and Ukraine, there used to be a lot of people that used to live in that areas, go to live to Turkey, go to live to Georgia. There's not that many places that they can go to, but Georgia is one of them. So as you remember when you told me that when you used to be there, like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, let's say the apartment price was like 30,000 in like, you know, near the center of their capital, Tbilisi.
Yep.
Now it's like double that.
The price of
so many people moving there, it's, you know, makes all the prices skyrocket. And it's a case for like a lot of countries.
It's true. It's true. And I feel like nowadays you're not finding cheap real estate anywhere. Like similar to what you said. I remember so just to give you guys a quick backstory, I did spend a little bit of time in Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia. Beautiful country, love it so much. If you're looking for something that's kind of off the beaten path, yet has a pretty solid tourist infrastructure, I highly recommend making a trip out to Georgia. And by the way, they are developing their crypto infrastructure, which was something that I found to be like pretty crazy. I remember I was in a shopping mall with my girl one time, and they have like ATMs in many European languages. They call it bankomat. They literally had cryptomat, and you can buy, sell, and exchange different currencies on a legitimate, like what looks like an ATM.
Yeah.
But just going back to what you were saying, just bringing it back, like when I first went to Georgia, they wanted rent for an apartment nearby the city center in a really popular area called Sabortalo. The apartment was going for like $300 to $400, right?
Yeah.
Once the war with Ukraine and Russia like started, the amount of Russian immigrants that like moved down into Georgia, it was insane, and that pretty much like catapulted the real estate prices. Like everything went from being like what was $300-400 before was now a right away double.
And you know that's where we come to like the concept of scarcity. Again, they can only go to Turkey, they can only go to Georgia. There's only so few places they can go to, and there's only so many apartments in the town.
Right.
So it becomes scarce. Yep. There is like a high demand for that. Okay. So prices are gonna skyrocket, and I feel like it's the case with the scarcity and demand. It's like literally like what moves all the markets. So let's say, again, there's only so much real estate, like there's only so much land. Like if you're trying to store a value of your money, like the land is probably like the best investment.
Agreed.
And of course, it's not cheap to acquire land. So not everyone can just buy some land. Not everyone can buy an apartment. But like real estate, land, stuff like this, it's always gonna hold its value or it's gonna rise up. Depends on the place where you are, of course, but at least where we live, like a tri-state area, dude, the prices are not going down ever. If they go down, they could go down for like half a year, but at the end of the day, they're always going to be going up and up and up. The same with gold. The gold is scarce, okay? So over the years, it's been going up and up and up, like years after years after years.
I think now it's over $2,000 like an ounce for gold.
So again, and I feel like speaking of storing of value, like you know, you have collectibles, okay? You have like some cars, some watches. They still hold a pretty good value, but again, you need to know what you're buying.
Facts.
Because it's not like you're just gonna buy any watch and like, oh, I'm gonna sell it for more in 5 years.
So true.
No, like you buy a Rolex, sure it's gonna hold the value. You're gonna buy what's the name, like Patek Philippe. This is gonna hold value, but most of the other watches, they're not gonna hold the value.
Yep.
It's not just buying any watch. You need to know what you're buying and you need to understand the market. There need to be demand for these watches.
It's so true.
And more limited the edition is, the better it's gonna hold the value. The same with the cars. It's not like any Ferrari is gonna be like insanely expensive or gonna hold insane value. Sure, they're gonna depreciate less than other cars, but it's the limited models that are gonna appreciate in value.
Yep, the limited models, those that have like one of one stitching in this color, one that maybe has I had a buddy that I studied at in school, and he has his own pretty much exotic car dealership. I'm going to try to get him here on the pod with us, but I remember he had like a Lamborghini Gallardo, which they stopped making quite a while ago. Mm-hmm. He had like a Lamborghini Gallardo that was so limited and was the last of its kind made in stick shift. So although this car was from like several years back, it was still going for more than like stock Lamborghini Huracans today, believe it or not. And you're like, just going back to what you said about watches, like, yeah, you can get a Rolex, and Rolex generally will hold their value. But then there's certain models of Rolex that like the daddy Rolexes that people will like are much more like attracted to.
100%.
They're gonna keep their value in a couple years. It's not like you're gonna buy that watch and it's gonna be like, you know.
So like real quick, just speaking of storing value, speaking of collectibles, there was a time where I used to collect baseball cards, okay? And there was a time between, I believe it was like 1986 to 1993.
You still got any of those cards?
I do. They're still in my house, still trying to...
You might have a gold mine in there, dude.
Maybe. We'll see in a couple years. I don't really go through them like daily. But, I was trying to be quite careful with what I'm buying, like make sure that, these are like cards that are in demand.
Yeah.
We'll see in a couple years. It's not going to be worth millions, but it was more of a hobby than actually trying to, make money on it. But speaking of the cards, so like 1986 to 1993, the junk wax era started, and like Baseball League would like license the card making to like anyone that wanted it. They just wanted to make as much money as possible.
Right.
So they used to mass produce these cards. So the cards from this time frame are like barely worth anything, just because there's so many of them.
Interesting.
When you look at the cards from like 1980 or like even before, just because they weren't mass produced, they're gonna be worth much, much more. That's when it comes to scarcity.
Exactly right, dude. Exactly right. That's interesting how like there are literally collectibles in anything. There's a market for anything. Like even if you hold like, I don't know what they're called, but like this one kid that he used to have like Yadros and like statues that were like limited by this artist, whatever. Like, dude, anything scarce is gonna hold its value. In a nutshell, I mean, like.
Yeah, so like art, like even like coins of any type of sort.
What do you think about, like, what's your opinion on art? And by that I mean, like, from what I understand, art is one of the last, like, so the price of art is arbitrarily set. It's like I can make a painting right now and I could be like, yo, listen, this is worth like $1 million. Who's to tell me that that's not worth $1 million? If someone's willing to pay for that $1 million, then
the price of something is whatever they're willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
So if someone's willing to pay $1 million for a painting, sure, it's worth $1 million, okay? But again, you have a few of these like painters or like artists that their stuff is worth a lot. But I feel like generally like art is like very kind of like a closed like space. There's not that many people that are interested in buying them, or maybe not even interested in buying them. It's just like the pieces that are worth something, they're worth so much money that there's only like rich people that can actually acquire them,
And like, just kind of stemming from that convo about art, dude, look at like Drake and Bad Bunny, like musicians. Do you know how much their tickets are going for their concert right now?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Tony, how much are the Bad Bunny tickets? They're like over 1,000.
It's $1,400 for nosebleeds.
$1,400 for nosebleeds. Like at that point, you may as well like watch it on YouTube or something.
Honestly, I was personally never a fan of concerts. I just don't see monetary value in that. Like the way I see buying stuff, like I feel like, is it really worth this much money? For me, it's not. I see why someone might think that it's an experience and it's worth for them.
Yeah.
I think it's a waste of money, in my opinion. It's just my sole opinion. So I would not pay money for this. If I want to listen to their music, I just go to YouTube, Spotify, I listen to their music. But if you want to live the experience and you really love the artist, sure, why not? It just depends how you perceive the value of something.
Yeah,
it's
but I feel
like
like similar to what you're saying, there's got to be that point where you just draw the line because listen, you love an artist. Let's just say the ticket's like $300, $400, $500, $600. Okay, like that's kind of crazy. But $1,400 to sit in the nosebleeds. But just going back to what you said, if people are willing to pay it, they're gonna charge it, bro.
That's how much it's worth.
They
were to pay it.
It's so true. They're gonna charge it, dude.
So what's crazy when Inter Miami acquired Messi, they already had a game with New York Red Bulls, like here in MetLife, already set before they acquired him. So let's say the tickets were like 200, 300, okay, somewhere around that area, okay. I don't know exact number. So once they acquired Messi, and he was rumored to play, he wasn't even confirmed.
I know.
The price went like 3, 4, 5 times more.
I know.
It's insane. So I'm not willing to. Okay, I really like Messi. Okay, I watch soccer, but I'm not willing to pay $1,500 to see him for 90 minutes in like again. It wasn't really like even a game for something. It was just like a practice game almost. Like, come on,
dude.
I'm not gonna pay $1,500 for that.
It's ridiculous.
If I had X amount of money, sure, maybe.
Dude, like soccer people, like people that are into soccer, like it's crazy the things that they'll do. For example, like I know,
Yeah.
her boyfriend was working at the W, and he told me that when Messi stayed there, people were like hanging in the trees and stuff, like just trying to like get a picture of him or whatever. Just bringing it back to that combo about like Messi and whatever, dude, it was so funny. I was talking with my boy Dennis, shout out to Dennis, and I was like, he was talking about how Messi just won his like 8th Ballon d'Or or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, like he won his 8th Ballon d'Or, but I'm like, but Cristiano don't play in Europe anymore, and he's like, where's Messi playing? And I'm like, bro, I can't believe this guy moved to Miami, dude. Like, that's crazy. Like, you go from being, like, the biggest player in the world to coming to MLS, dude. That's about money, man.
But listen, man, it's a great retirement. Like, the level is not as high as in Europe, not even remotely close. Listen, you can make great money. You live in Miami. Like, man.
That's true.
Like, again, he can even kind of, like, choose the games that he plays on. Like, he doesn't have to play every single game. Like, whenever he wants to rest, he's going to rest. It's a great town. He makes great money. Like, why wouldn't he do it? It's, like, almost like a, usually, like, when they come to a certain age, their body is not
the same.
Not the same. Okay, yeah. So you might have to like come somewhere else when the level is not so high. And you just don't want to like try so hard. You already won everything, so I see why.
I was gonna say that he's literally won every trophy. He's won like World Cup, Champions League. Like he's won it all, dude. He's won trebles. Like he's a legit walking goat. He's a living goat. But yeah, dude.
So yeah, like so speaking of like all these prices, I feel like every single like type of business or like sport, you're gonna have, let's say, stars of something, and as soon as, let's say, stars playing in the game, like the tickets are just going through the roof. You pay so much more money for.
Something else that I wanted to talk to you about, bro, is like, what are your opinions on people that say something like oil or crude is gonna go away? What's your opinion on that?
I feel like at some point in time, possibly, I do not think it's gonna be anytime soon. There were some like agencies that are predicting that, but I think that by like 2050, like we are gonna be able to come off like using the oil, and then we're gonna have enough wind or solar power to like be able to like power everything. But like, man, like you have to remember, like you're gonna have all these cars that are using like fuel. Like, as much as I can see it happening in like a very developed countries when they're going to electric cars like more and more and more.
Right.
Like, come on, African countries or like not even African countries, like the countries that are not so developed.
Yeah, just developing countries. They don't have the infrastructure.
Like, listen, they're still using cars that are like 20, 25, 30 years old. It's a 30-year-old car. Like, what do you think is going to change from 30-year-old Toyota to like Tesla? Like, just the upfront cost for electric cars is so high.
It's very true.
Like, I just feel like like the technology has to advance much, much further. And like the cost of batteries and everything else has to really come down for most of the world to be able to adapt it. I just don't see this happening anytime soon.
I honestly could not agree more. Like, I feel like we just have such a heavy reliance on oil that so much heavy machinery, like you said, cars. Like, when I was in Georgia, half the cars have the steering wheel on the right side, half them have it on the left side. So how are people going to expect that by 2030 or whatever, by 2035, that like these other countries are just going to magically hop on that EV wagon and, no pun intended, just totally switch it up? You know?
Let's be real, it's not happening.
It's not happening.
Like the cheapest of these electric cars are like 20,000, 25,000 with all these like tax incentives.
Yeah.
Like, come on, some of these countries, people are willing to spend $500, $1,000, $1,500 for a car. You think they're going to spend 20,000?
No way.
Every single one of them?
No way.
Where are they going to take all this money from?
It's so true.
It's just like, it's all about the technological advancement, man. Like, they need to, and the one thing that I wanted to touch on. The other day I was reading that depending on the temperature, so let's say if you're in either like very hot climate or very cold climate, the range for your car is not going to be the same. So let's say if it's above like 85 degrees or it's below 32 degrees, the range can fall by like 15 or 20% or even up to 40% if these are extreme temperatures.
That's crazy.
So let's say if you live somewhere like cold, like in some like Canadian states where it's cold, or like like if let's say you live like somewhere where it's like very hot,
like Dubai,
like the range for Tesla or for electric vehicle is not going to be the same as it says.
Absolutely.
It's going to be like 30-40% even. It's going to drop by 40%. And as much as I understand, on daily basis you might not need like a full battery to go to work and back. Let's say if you're trying to take a trip and you have to drive all day, then you have to stop charge your battery for like 30 or 45 minutes and then keep going. But like, who wants to stop for 45 minutes to charge your car?
Exactly.
So like, I feel like they would have to advance the technology to the point where they can like charge it faster, or like the range is gonna be like better. Like, it just, man, I just can't see it happening anytime soon.
It's not happening anytime soon. And just going back to what you said, like that idea of range anxiety. Have you ever heard about that? The range anxiety. It's pretty much like, let's just say you're in Canada. You're driving across country. What happens if you see that your battery is getting somewhat low and you don't have another charging station for like good few miles off? They call that range anxiety, from what I understand. You're literally going to feel some type of way. You're going to like even start panicking. Like, you're always going to find a gas station. There's always going to be one within like 50 to 100 miles, I have to believe. But these, like, the infrastructure is just not there yet.
Yeah, no, like they have to put a lot of money for, batteries, infrastructure. Like, man, like at this point you have to plan your trip or where you drive to where the charging stations are. And like, that's not really optimal,
It's true. So
I feel like there is still a lot of work to be done. At some point in the future, maybe. Anytime soon, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, again, back of the day, no one thought that we're going to have planes, that we're going to be able to like, use planes to like go from country to country.
And what are they going to get, electric planes?
So
it's not happening, in the next like 10, 15, 20. I just personally don't see it happening.
I know, like, we just rely on oil so much. Like, all these machineries that create clothes and all this other stuff, it all like relies on oil.
Absolutely.
And another thing is, we have to also remember that extracting oil from the soil is getting more and more expensive. So I feel like we might come to a point where it's just not going to be worth to extract it. It's going to be such an expensive process to get the oil. There's just not going to be worth, because we're going to have to pay so much money for it. Like, the economy at this point would like just tank. Like, I can't even imagine that.
Dude, it's crazy, and it's actually kind of scary, because I could be wrong, but I think I read some statistic that the U.S. uses like per day 1 billion barrels of oil or something, some crazy number like that. Like, we simply don't have enough oil in our reserves to sustain that. And think about this. Not to go down like that whole political rabbit hole, but once like war started happening, more sanctions were put on Russia, whatever, like the U.S. started buying their oil from Venezuela. Like, what are we doing at that point? Like clearly we have such a reliance on it that we're going to all these other countries, buying it from them, but oil prices are still pretty high, dude.
Yeah, so it's not like that overnight we're just going to run out. But like, it might be harder to get, it might be more expensive to get, and just countries that have power, that can extract oil from like within their territory, they're going to have much more power than they do have now. Now they have power, but then they're really going to have power when it's going to be limited.
And
scarce.
In the same vein of things, right? Dude, look how many countries came up from nothing just off oil money. Dude, Dubai, 50, 60 years ago, I don't even think was a thing. That's all oil money. You look at a city like Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, all oil money. You look at Baku, Azerbaijan, like the amount of natural resources that these countries have is insane. Like, other countries in their area that unfortunately don't have the oil, or it's fallen into like corrupt hands, they simply like, they're not on the same level, if that makes any sense.
Man, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, like there's so many countries that rely on this oil. They make billions and billions of that. It's totally insane. So like, once they're not able to like sell that, I wonder what's gonna happen to their economy. It might not happen overnight, as I said. It might be years and years, but like, man, like what's gonna happen then? Like, how they're gonna make their money?
I definitely agree, but I feel like some countries, like for example Saudi Arabia, is just so far along to the point where I don't think they have to rely on oil. Like, I just recently saw an episode of Joe Rogan where they were talking about the wall. Have you heard about that?
No.
So they're literally building, from what I understand, a city in Saudi Arabia that is in the structure of a wall. It looks like a real, like, I'm not gonna say thin, but it's literally just one big wall with, like, from what I understand, housings in there. They have shopping centers. They're gonna have gardens, like anything that you could think of. Like, this is an insane development that they're bringing to life out there. And just going back to what I said, bringing it whole, like, I don't think at this point countries like Saudi Arabia or like the Emirates, like, United Arab Emirates, Dubai, I don't think that they're really relying so much on the oil at this point. Like, Dubai, whoever's been there can agree with what I'm about to say, but Dubai is literally the next New York City. It's the next business hub. Anybody has been to Dubai. It's not my personal favorite city on earth, but it's obvious that like a lot of new money is going into Dubai, and it's really a beautiful city. If you've ever been to like the Burj Khalifa area or like that shopping mall they have under there, like you can just see the wealth that's just been like invested in their country.
Man, like they're literally creating their own islands.
They're creating their
like,
own islands.
What did we come to place? I was just saying that you cannot make more land. I mean, technically you can, but like again, it's so much money into it. They're not gonna create another countries, another islands to live on. But like, sure, like small parts of land, yes. But there's so much money going into it. When you look at it from like the picture that they're taking from the satellites and everything, just looks insane. What they're building. It looks insane.
You're talking about the Palm Jumeirah or whatever,
yes,
right? Yeah,
yes.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and then you can just tell by looking at that thing that's just like not like a natural thing. Like that was for sure man-made.
But I remember you told me something that Dubai is not really walkable, right?
Dubai is definitely not a walkable city. Like when I went to Dubai, I didn't rent a car or anything. I was pretty much riding with taxis, but it's very hard to get from one part of the city to another if you don't have a car. Like if you go to a place like Prague, Czech Republic, you can walk the whole city of Prague. I'm not talking about those outer districts, but I'm talking about you can walk all those tourist attractions in like 1 or 2 days if you're taking your time with it. If you look at a place like Dubai, you're not walking. Yeah, there's like, granted, there's not a ton of things to see there. Like they have their beauty, they have a nice beach over there. There's a lot of like opulence and wealth. You see the cars, all that stuff, but in terms of like history, like it's a relatively new place. Yeah, they have the gold market or like the old port, like, but generally speaking, everything is very separated and far apart. You have to have a car if you're over there. Even like where we live here, North Jersey area, dude, you need a car to get around. If you don't have a car, what are you going to do? And in America, our public transportation is straight up trash.
So speaking of walkable places, so I recently went for vacation to Iceland. Man, such a beautiful country. It's naturally beautiful.
It's naturally beautiful, right?
Like man, to get to anywhere, like you do need a car. Like it's so hard to get around. Like there is basically like one highway that like goes around the island, where you just literally like there's one line like each way that you have to go. There's literally no police that you ever see. People like keep speeding. Like sometimes it's literally like people drive recklessly. It's beautiful country, but like if you want to get around, you need a car there.
I'm kind of shocked that Iceland is just not spoken about so much. I know it's a small country, but like before they had that crazy run in like the Euro or whatever soccer tournament that was, no one was ever really talking about Iceland.
You know, so I feel like it's not even as much as about the Euro run. It's more about like the volcano. After the volcano eruption, that's when people heard about this. And people were like, oh, maybe let's go and see it. Maybe let's see the volcano. Again, they have icebergs.
The Blue Lagoon.
They have like their secret lagoons. It's like waterfalls. Like it's naturally beautiful.
They have their own beauty.
It's just such a pretty country. Again, it is on the expensive side. When speaking on inflation and everything, it's not even as much about inflation, but the prices are high.
But it's an island. Everything's got to be imported.
That's true. But again, you need to have, if you want to get around there, like you need money. Like it's not one of the cheaper spots to be.
Right. That's crazy, dude. Well, yo, listen, I had a great time, dude, with this podcast episode today. I'm looking forward to our next episode where we're gonna have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Frankie Boy Palmisano. So if you enjoyed this, learned anything new, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and keep an eye out for us on all streaming platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, you name it. We're going to be everywhere. Drop the video a thumbs up and leave me your opinions down in the comment section below. You got anything in final you want to add?
Thank you so much for watching, guys. And remember, we're gonna put out one episode every week. So I hope you're gonna come back and enjoy the time with us.
See you guys all next time, guys. We're signing out, right?
Take care.
Peace. That's it, boys.